Now you're listening to Fantastic Formosa with Jon Abrams in Taipei. Well, today's guest on our program is a foreign student here from Colombia, and her name is Alejandra, and she's been here 5 years. Colombia, how do you say that in Chinese?
So Colombia in Chinese is Colombia.
All right. Sounds more exotic, I think, when you say it like that. Well, it's great for you to show up and do this for us. A lot of our students, and particularly Army personnel here, study Spanish, and it's very common here at Wushingang College to study Spanish as well. So they're interested in that part of the world. So you've been here 5 years?
Yes, 5 years, almost.
Almost, all right. So you're in Colombia. Did you get a degree in Colombia before you came here?
No, I actually graduated from high school and came to Taiwan.
Okay, so the idea is that you went straight from 18 to, were you 18 when you graduated high school? I assume that's the same age, right?
Not really. I was actually almost 20 years old when I graduated high school.
Okay. And that 2 year, okay, that's 20. And then how did you end up in Taiwan?
I was very fortunate because I wanted a gap year. I wanted to do something different than the rest of my classmates. And I found out about an opportunity to study Chinese in Taiwan, and then I applied to a scholarship to come here.
Wow. Did you have any interest in anything about Chinese language or history or anything at all before you signed up?
I did. Since I was about 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch a lot of anime from Japan and also Chinese shows at home.
Are you talking about the Kung Fu movies?
I did, yeah. A bunch of them. My dad also likes them, so.
I grew up on them as well. Yes, they are quite famous in America. Anime is also, for me, it's very different because we didn't have it in America. But it has become extremely popular right now, particularly the manga-style comic books in America are in English. So you did you know a word of Chinese before you got on that airplane?
I knew 2 words of Chinese.
All right, let me guess. Ni hao?
Yeah, that's one.
Well, that's a phrase. Those are the only 2 words, right?
No. So 2 phrases then.
All right. What's the other phrase?
I knew ni hao and bu hao, which means not good.
Well, yeah, when I got here, the same sort of problem. We call it learning kitchen Chinese. You had to learn these basic words for just being nice to people on the street, buying groceries, going to a restaurant, telling a taxi driver, turn left, turn right, go straight, stop, that sort of basic kitchen Chinese. So here you are, you get off the airplane and you go to the university, and what's the study plan? What were you going to study?
So I came here, and the first thing I did is I enrolled myself in a Chinese course.
Chinese language course?
Yes, Chinese language course.
Okay, all right. Where?
At NTNU.
Oh, okay. Good program. Yeah, that's a very good program. A lot of foreigners come here and study there. And how long were you in that program?
I was in that program for a year.
1 year of intense Chinese language study.
Yes, I did the intensive program.
All right. And this is speaking, but how about reading? Was that something that you skipped or just gave up on, or?
That's actually an interesting question. I can read Chinese better than I can speak it because my program was focused on the writing part and the reading part.
Okay, a lot of people say the same thing to me. They can read it, but they can't speak it. I can understand it, but I can't speak it many times. My wife is always angry. Interesting. So 1 year of that, and then you decided to do what? What are you going to do with all this, this Chinese you've studied?
So we had COVID.
Oh, no, that's right. Yes. And that shut down your any plans for going to school? What did you do? Go back home for a while? Did you?
So the original plan was for me to study Chinese in Taiwan for 1 year and then to go back home to Colombia to actually study my major in university.
Well, but what is your major? And what would it have been had you gone back?
It would have been chemistry.
Chemistry. All right. And, no offense, but I've known you for a while, and chemistry doesn't seem to be your area. Let's see. I think did you not mention that your family had a very interesting, one was what, a diplomat, is that correct?
Yes, my grandma was a diplomat.
For Colombia, where? Where did she station?
So she was a diplomat for Colombia in the U.S., more specifically in New York for the United Nations.
All right. And did you ever travel there to see her? Or?
I had a beautiful opportunity when I was 14 years old to go with her to the headquarters and get a tour of the place. That was amazing.
Yeah. It's an interesting building. I thought it was getting a little old, but one thing of interest is they had the statue of Christ. Did you see that with the charred, burnt part on one side?
I did.
From the nuclear bomb. That's pretty creepy when you realize that was really there. How long was she at the United Nations?
About 20 years.
Wow. 20 years in the United Nations. Okay. And you got to visit her and you got the tour. And I remember going down into the basement where they have a small restaurant and ordering a cheeseburger and buying a postcard. You had to buy a postcard, and so you could get a United Nations stamp on it. And I was very young at the time, but that was a big deal. But I went in the winter, and New York was really kind of dirty and wet and dark. So I think I went during a relatively bad time. Wow, I would have thought, you might be a lawyer or a diplomat or something in the future. But a chemist seems a little difficult. Not that you're not smart, you're very intelligent, but, chemistry sort of scares me, but you like it.
A lot of people feel intimidated by chemistry, but I think it's a beautiful field.
Mm.
The only reason why I didn't choose it in the end was because I had to spend a lot of time by myself in the lab, and I found that quite lonely.
Mm. So and you're mixing chemicals, I guess, and I suppose that could be a little dangerous, maybe. There are acids and different chemicals could probably hurt you if you breathe them in. So you didn't go back for COVID. You stayed here.
I did. It was a big decision on my part because I had liked Taiwan so much and I liked the prospect of studying university here.
Mm.
I decided to apply for a scholarship.
Oh, okay. And a university here accepted you?
Yes, they did.
Oh, great. What was the scholarship? What was it for? Was it chemistry or?
No, it was for international relations and diplomacy.
Well, there you go. See? That's where your grandmother comes back into the picture. So we call it IR in colleges in America, International Relations. And I got a bachelor's degree in that stuff, and here I am running a radio program. Just a warning to you. So international relations. So you're thinking about, going back and being a diplomat or something. What?
Originally, I thought about that and pursuing a diplomatic career. However, nowadays, I realized that it might be more interesting to work for a multinational corporation, maybe in Asia, that does business with Latin America instead.
Oh, yeah, that would be a big, moneymaker, sure. That sort of thing is quite lucrative. Lucrative means pays very well sometimes. So interesting, good. Of course, you could do it in chemicals. Export import of chemicals. That'd be perfect for you.
I thought about that too. However, I think working for a construction company might be a bit more interesting.
A construction company in Taiwan or in Asia or?
Yes.
Okay, Taiwan.
With projects in Latin America.
Oh, with projects in Latin America. Okay, all right. So you got this scholarship. How long was the scholarship good for?
So I got 2 different scholarships. The first one was when I arrived in Taiwan for 1 year.
Right.
That was the Hawaii scholarship. It was just to study Chinese. And the other scholarship I got to study my major was like an outstanding student scholarship for international students.
Outstanding. Wow. Okay. What did that pay for? Did it pay for your housing and your what? What did it? Scholarships pay for different things sometimes.
Yes, they gave me a certain amount of money, and I got to decide what I was going to do with it. That was about 30,000 NT for the semester.
Oh, wow. So you got some cash.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. 30,000 NT a month is pretty good.
Oh, per semester.
Sorry. Per semester. Now, a semester, how long is a semester in Taiwan in a college normally?
Well, it varies because our semester begins and finishes depending on the Chinese New Year.
Right. They're very different, yeah. So, yeah, ours began, of course, in January and then end in September. And some universities in America have what we call trimesters. And those can be very intensive engineering schools and such. So, all right. So, are your classes in English or Chinese?
Most of my classes are in English.
All right. Thank God, huh? All right.
Fortunately, yes.
So, do you find international relations interesting at all, or?
I do. Especially everything that's related to Asia and political economy.
Okay, political economy. What is political economy? That seems like 2 separate things.
A lot of people make the mistake to separate them when they're designing policies. But they go hand in hand quite well because in politics is who gets what. It's related to power. And economics is an efficient allocation of resources. So if you put them together, you get to design more realistic policies because you also calculate the power dynamics in the country when making the economic policy.
Wow. Okay. That seems to be clear. I never really thought about that concept, and maybe I studied it, but I forgot about it. Interesting. So Asia is your focus, and some of the classes are actually in Chinese. So you had to read the book or the chapter or something in Chinese, right?
Every now and then.
All right. Well, that keeps you busy and focused. Keeps your Chinese what we call sharp, right?
I wouldn't say sharp, but it definitely keeps it awake.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, to me, it's always been very difficult to read Chinese. So when you go you go to the school, the university, and do you hang out with other Colombians or Latin American types?
Not really. I do have a bit of friends from Latin America here in Taiwan, but I'm much closer to a lot of my Taiwanese friends than I am to other foreign students.
That's extremely important. You know, many many foreign students who come here hang around their own language group, and they don't learn anything about Chinese language or culture or tradition. And I've seen this in America too. You'll see Taiwanese or Chinese come to the universities in America and they hang out in their own little groups, and they don't learn English very well. So it's become a kind of a problem on both sides. But good for you. You're mixing it up with different types of people, different Taiwanese cultures, right? And you are traveling, I assume. Where have you been in Taiwan?
I've been in almost every county in Taiwan.
Every county.
Almost every county.
My God. All right. Did you do this on a motorcycle? A lot of people ride motorcycles around Taiwan.
I'm not that good of a driver. I rather take the train or the bus. I think public transport in Taiwan is quite convenient, and it's also quite safe, so I really enjoy taking it.
Okay. So what's your favorite place in Taiwan to visit?
If I had to choose one place, I would definitely choose Taidong.
Taidong. Okay. That's really far south. That's on the East Coast, and it's very beautiful.
It is. It has a lot of nature, which I enjoy. So I do a bit of surfing, I go hiking. I like to meet with different Aboriginal people in Taidong and spend the day with them, see how they live, ask them about their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually like that because we do a bit of cultural exchange. They get to show me around, and I get to teach them a bit about my country.
Oh, cool. So these Aborigine in Taidong in the mountains, they also have spas up there, hot springs, right?
Oh, they do, yes.
Yeah, see, that's a lot of fun. I do enjoy going there, or basically Hualien sometimes for the hot springs. But I'm thinking of Colombia again. Taiwan has really high mountain ranges, and I think of Colombia as a jungle-like place with, snakes and, danger. And does it have mountains in Colombia?
There's a common misconception about that because Colombia does have part of the Amazon rainforest in the southern part of the country. However, we also have the Andes mountain range that divides into 3 separate ranges throughout the country as well. So it makes our geography quite unique.
Well, can you go skiing? Is there snow? Is there, is it like Switzerland where you can go, skiing, snow skiing?
We definitely don't have as much snow as they do in Switzerland. But
Okay.
What I can tell you is that even though you're not able to ski, you are able to see snow in Colombia at the mountain peaks a lot of the time because it's so cold and so high up that, we do get snow.
Well, that sounds like Taiwan. Occasionally they get snow at the higher peaks, and then everyone drives up there to I don't know why they want to go up there to look at snow.
2 inches of snow.
Yeah. But they do. Occasionally in the winter, they do get snow here. So the surfing, you mentioned surfing. My gosh, I didn't know you were a surfer.
Oh, I am. I started surfing when I was 14 because I lived in Peru as well.
Peru.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in Peru, surfing's quite popular. A lot of good surfers in Peru. And in the summer, I just decided I was picking it up, and I started surfing. A few friends taught me how, and I just practice every morning for 3 months of the year.
Wow, then you're really good. If you're doing that for how many years?
3 years.
3 years every morning. Now, they say it's dangerous to surf in the morning because of sharks. That's when they feed. Is that true?
Well, in Peru, there's an advantage, a natural advantage for that, which is they have the Humboldt current, which makes the water extremely cold, so sharks don't like to go to Peru, so we don't have that problem there.
Okay. So do you have a board here? Surfing board?
Not anymore. I usually rent the board. It's
Yeah,
more convenient that way.
Much easier. It's only been in the past 15 years or so that foreigners have been coming to Taiwan to surf. Mostly somewhere near Wallin, I think. You'll see these surfing places. To me, it seems like it's a very it's a very rocky coast, East Taiwan, and I'm a little bit scared of the rocks under the water that you cannot see, the large rocks. So you enjoyed that here. Did you mountain climb at all in Colombia when you were there? Did you do anything like that, or just hike?
In Colombia, I would just hike. I started mountain climbing here in Taiwan, but it was something I did for a very short time.
Scary.
It is quite scary. That's why I
Yes.
stopped.
Yeah, I can't imagine mountain climbing. They're so good at it now. They have these techniques and special tools. But when I was a kid, no, it was just rope, it seemed like. And you had to use your hands. And so I decided not to learn how to mountain climb. This is 1960s, of course. But you did it much later in life. You did that here, right?
Yes, but I did bouldering, which is without the rope.
Bouldering.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds strange. A boulder is just a huge rock, basically, right? The size of a car, maybe. Or is that what you're talking about? Boulders?
Bouldering, well, it is related to that. Basically, what you do is that you use your hands and feet to be able to climb on your own without a rope. But then, usually, if you do that in a gym here in Taiwan, they have safety nets or places where you can land, because then after you finish the climb, you usually drop or finish right where you started.
Okay, you're talking about these little gyms that have these wooden walls, and they put these little rocks. I don't even know what they make them different shapes, right? And then you practice climbing up these things as quickly as possible. If you fall, there's a net or a large mattress or something underneath. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's if you do it indoors.
All right. That's good practice, right?
It's good practice. I did manage to do it outdoors here in Taiwan, but that's a bit more complicated, so I was very careful, and I did it usually in groups.
Right, more safe, yeah. Then now, a lot of people probably don't know this, but in Taiwan you have to have a license to go hiking, right?
It depends on the trail you're taking, usually.
Right, they want to know where you're going and where they can find you if you go missing. So sometimes they make you go in groups. Have you done that, group hiking, or is it just individual hiking?
Mostly group hiking. I like that much better.
Now, the couple places around here, Elephant Mountain, right?
Yes, we have Elephant Mountain.
And you've done that, or?
I have.
What's that like?
At first, it was a bit touristy.
Okay. Touristy. What does that mean, touristy? Are they selling things along the path, or too many people, or what?
Well, let's say a lot of people knew about that place, so you saw a lot of foreigners, and yes, some people did try to sell me things while I was hiking, so I didn't like that as much.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've never been up there, except they have a lot of condominiums up there, but I've never been hiking up there. Weekends are really rough. As Yamingshan, of course, has hiking trails. It's an amazing country, you know. From Taipei City, you can get on the subway, MRT system, and you can be up in the mountains if you want in, 35 minutes, take a hiking trail. Another, a full hour, maybe you can be on the coast in Dam Shui, right? They call it. And so Taiwan has a lot to offer people. What was the biggest surprise when you got here compared to your life in Colombia?
The biggest thing was how safe Taiwan is.
Yes, they're very proud of that. Yeah. So, gosh, I hate to ask you because the movies make Colombia out to sound like, a very dangerous place. You might be kidnapped, disappeared, or how dangerous is it, Colombia?
Well, nowadays it's actually quite safer than many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if you go to visit Colombia as long as you stay within certain regions and certain parts of the city.
Mm.
However, it's not as safe as Taiwan. It'll never be as safe as Taiwan.
Okay. Well, Taiwan's a very unique city. Yeah. It has not always been safe here. When I first got here, it was not. It could be a little dangerous. But yes, I think one of the things that made it safer here are all these video cameras everywhere. I mean, they're literally everywhere. Everyone has phones with cameras on them, but yes, it is an incredibly safe and friendly place. Are people friendly on the streets in Colombia?
They usually are.
Mm.
I think Taiwanese and Colombian people are quite alike in that sense. Like in Colombia, if someone sees you're lost, they might try to help you as well, which is definitely the case here.
Yeah, oh my gosh. They love to ask me all the time if I'm lost, even though I've been here over 30 years. And I often say, depending on how pretty she is, I'll say, just joking. I'll say, yeah, oh, no, I'm fine. Or, oh, yes, I'm totally lost. But that was before we have these phones with the GPS and the map, Google Maps. But people do like to practice their English here. They like to stop and talk to you. And they like to welcome me to Taiwan. And it makes me feel very uncomfortable because I've lived almost half my life here. And I don't feel like I'm new. Of course, they don't know that; they have no idea. But of course, and so you're studying in school. How long you been studying IR now, international relations, in university?
Almost 4 years now.
So, gosh, 4 years for a master's or a bachelor's?
Oh, it's a bachelor's degree, and I actually graduate this June.
This June. So you have a Bachelor of Arts, is it? Or a Bachelor of Science?
It's a bachelor's in humanities.
Okay, for international relations. Okay. In America, that would be, did you have a language? Normally for a Bachelor of Arts in America, a humanities degree, for example, you had to have a second language test. And something like philosophy or history. That would be a humanities-style degree. I didn't think international relations was humanities related, but I suppose it is. So you got your degree in your hand. You're going to have a ceremony, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
In fact, 2 ceremonies.
Really? What? Why 2?
One is with the entire school,
Hmm.
like all of the departments in the university,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is just for my department.
Oh, a separate one. That's a great idea. All right. And you wear the cap and the gown, right?
Oh yes, I'm supposed to find one soon.
Can you rent those, or can you buy one cheap, used on the internet, or hopefully you don't have to buy a brand new one.
So there are 2 options. One is to rent them from the school. They have a rental service. And the other one is to, get one made for you, which is way more expensive.
a tailor-made gown for your graduation. That I don't know why you would want that, but I suppose if you were rich, maybe you could afford something like that. So yeah, this happens in June, and then what happens to you? You get back on an airplane and go back to Colombia, or do you want to get a master's degree here in Taiwan, or what do you want to do? Internship, maybe with a company? Who knows? What do you want to do?
Well, I'm trying to apply for different internships here in Taiwan. I'm also going to keep studying Chinese because I do think that's a very important aspect if you want to stay here in the long term.
Mm-hmm. All right. So internships, have you started applying?
I have. They're quite competitive here in Taiwan for international students, unfortunately.
Really? I didn't think there were all that many international students in Taiwan. Are there a lot from? No, I suppose there are quite a few from Latin America, Central America, because I run into them all the time. Is that the market you're competing against, or is it the Southeast Asian students, or who's your main competitor for these internships?
Honestly speaking, I would say a lot of the time it's European students mostly.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea there were that many European students here.
Oh, there are many.
Okay. And what group? French, German, what?
It doesn't really matter as much because I usually like to apply for internships that are related to the EU. So as long as they're a member state of the EU, they usually get the advantage on their application.
European Union.
Yes. Even though it's not a requirement for the internship per se.
Really? Why? I wonder why that would be a big deal to somebody who would want you to be an EU member. Do you know the motivation for that, or?
It's usually because they have a greater understanding on the bureaucracy in the EU if they're working for an EU company.
Okay.
So they think that's more helpful if it's an EU company here in Taiwan than me, that I don't have as much experience dealing with that kind of bureaucracy.
So are you dealing with, when you send your internship, are these open internships that are advertised at your school, or are they, just that maybe that company wants is looking for somebody sort of thing?
I usually apply for open internships online.
All right.
So that makes it harder to get because more people can apply to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a real nightmare. You'll have people applying that probably don't even live here.
Exactly.
So they're looking for foreigners, not Taiwanese, for these internships, right?
For the ones I've applied so far, yes. However, I do want to start looking into other types of internships that have different application requirements.
Now, these are for IR positions in that world of political, international, geopolitical, whatever, or are they in construction companies? I mean, you mentioned that earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's my goal in the end, but I haven't been able to find ones that I can apply to yet.
Okay.
I'll keep looking.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Okay. There are a lot of think tanks here, and I'm sure you've tried those. Does Colombia even have a trade office here, or?
No, so that is kind of a problem for me because that means I can't do an internship for them.
Right. That's a big problem. I'm so sorry. Yeah. That would be an issue. Normally they have at least a trade office. But that's an issue. So what happens if the internship thing doesn't work out? You find yourself without, you have a student visa now, right?
I do.
Right. Okay. So you have how soon before you graduate till the time you get an internship can you use that visa?
So as soon as I graduate, I get a visa for 6 months to look for a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's the benefit of graduating from a Taiwanese university.
All right.
They give me 6 months to look for a job in Taiwan without any sort of restrictions.
All right. Okay. All right. And then if you don't find one within 6 months, then you go to get your master's degree here, or do you go home, or do you have a plan or any thoughts? I'm sure you're thinking about it.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two options. One is either I continue looking for internships and studying Chinese at the same time. It's a long process. I can spend a year on that perfectly fine. And if not, I am applying for different master's programs abroad, mostly in the UK, Australia, and I also am considering if my Chinese is good enough to apply for master's programs here.
Good. Well, it'd be very tempting to stay here. I mean, it's so friendly and nice. But also they want you to mix things up in terms of experience. You know, when I went through my programs as a young man, I had to get a bachelor's degree at one university and a master's at a completely different university, and to mix up the program a little bit, make it a little bit more sexy, I guess, or experience different things. But staying here would definitely be very tempting. Would you go to the same school or a different one?
Different school.
Here, okay, in Taiwan. All right. Now, when you go back to Colombia and tell people about Taiwan, are they interested in coming to visit, like your parents? Do they want to come here and check out the island?
Oh, definitely.
Uh-huh.
They love the pictures I send them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They think Taiwan looks beautiful and quite diverse. Like, they're surprised there's this much diversity in such a small piece of land.
Right. Now, diversity in terms of people or your biodiversity or what?
Biodiversity, and also in terms of people, because Taiwan is also like a kind of a melting pot.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it has become more so in the past at least 10 years. We've got a lot more mixed groups here from other countries. That has been quite interesting for me, because when I first arrived, there were Americans and Brits and Australians, but that was pretty much it. There wasn't too much. There weren't really, nobody else was here. But yeah, good. Now we have a lot of folks from Southeast Asia, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam. A lot of Vietnamese are here. We have a lot of folks from your part of the world as well. They seem to really like it here. So I was just wondering, do you have any opportunities to teach Spanish here as a second language to businessmen or anything like that? Make a little extra money, maybe.
You do.
Uh-huh.
In my case, when I teach Spanish or English, because sometimes I do teach English,
Mm-hmm.
I usually do it with students,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Spanish major students usually,
Good.
who need some extra help with their assignments.
Right, okay. Okay. Now, I have a question for you. This is about Spanish, because it's a mystery to me. The Spanish they speak in Spain is obviously different from the Spanish you speak in South America. But how different is it?
It's different to the extent you can tell there's a difference in accent and vocabulary, sometimes even grammar, but it's similar enough that you can still understand each other when you speak Spanish.
Okay, interesting. It's like the British and the Americans.
Yes, to that
Yeah.
extent.
Sometimes I don't understand the British. particularly with a little Pijo. I do understand them better after drinking a few beers. They suddenly become more reasonable. But have you studied any other languages besides Spanish and Chinese? And English, of course.
Yes, I studied German, and I'm currently enrolled in German courses as well.
My gosh, you're busy.
I'm always busy.
Okay. So, all right. So, and back in Colombia, would you recommend a Taiwanese visit Colombia?
I would. I think there are a bunch of amazing tours you can have around the country, especially in the coffee region, and also the coast.
And the coast is beautiful, no doubt.
It is. We have archipelagos and we have all sorts of wildlife as well.
Is it really rocky like the ones on the East Coast here? Or?
No, it's covered in sand, white sand, actually.
Oh, see, that would be beautiful. I would love that. I would love that. We're going to wrap up this episode and hopefully meet you again. And good luck to you in Taiwan.
Oh, thank you, Wendell.